Hi, everybody. I just went to the farmer's market. It's Sunday morning, and I often get asked, what should I be getting at the farmer's market? What should I be shopping for? What are you buying? What are you shopping for? How do you cook? So I thought I would share the goodies that I got from the farmer's market and in the process educate why I'm making the decisions that I'm making so that you can adopt the same decision making if it feels good for you. So, something I don't get every time, but probably about once every few weeks, is natural sprouted almonds. And it's just so amazing that these haven't really been processed, and that I know the grower, the almond guy, and that they are sprouted, meaning that they've sort of increased their life force, their prana, because that's what happens when you sprout anything. So, how do I use these? I do not eat them raw. What I do is I soak them in water overnight. So, I just grab a small handful, throw them in a bowl, and by the morning they're all nice and plumped up, and the skin falls off very easily. And I feed them to my children and myself about 5 to 10 a day, and it's so great for all the natural, healthy, bioavailable fats. The soaking it makes it super easily digestible and available. It also removes a lot of the sort of natural blocks to digestion that the almonds have in their skin, and it helps to make your brain really strong. They say my grandma always said it's for your memory, and before exams for sure, she was always pumping me full of soaked almonds. And that's probably the shorthand way of saying it really helps to make sure you have a healthy fat myelin sheath surrounding your nerves, which is the basis of brain health and nerve conduction. So this is a treat. Isn't this beautiful? This is stone ground chocolate. It has no emulsifiers. It has zero fillers. It has zero real marketing even. It's from Colombia, and it's been stone ground for 45 hours after roasting it. So it's about a 72% dark chocolate, and then the rest is just cane sugar. That's it. Cacao and cane sugar. That's it. It's that's amazing, right? So I love that there's no gums or anything else in here, and it also tastes really great. And what I love about my chocolate guy is that he works with different tribes, and so sometimes it's from Colombia. Next week I might get a chocolate that he happens to have that's now ready from Guatemala. Um, so that's also nice to connect to where the plant is coming from, where the food is coming from. That's definitely a part of Ayurveda and being connected. Um, I grabbed some beets. I didn't need to grab too many, and that's because all root vegetables are essentially sugars. They're great sugars, but we don't need too much of the roots. So everything that goes underground, you really don't need that much of. So carrots and beets and sweet potatoes are all fantastic, but in terms of the ratio that I'm going to keep them in my life, in my diet, it's not going to be the majority of what I'm eating in the vegetables. But the greens up here on the beets are really important for me, because I really like to make sure I'm using as much of the plant as possible. So with greens like this that are more thick and rubbery, so think like dino kale and things like that, I wouldn't ever do these raw because it's really hard to digest. As opposed to like a cilantro or like a very thin baby kale or a lettuce, sprouts, things that are super fine and thin. Those are easy for the body to break down, so I'm much more likely to do those in a salad or as a garnish where they're raw. So with these beet greens, what could I do? I could throw them into a soup. I like to use the immersion blender, and the kids don't even notice. I could also bake them in something, so like a quiche. Yeah, so there's some root veggies, and that's actually the only root veggie I got. So pretty much every week I get one root veggie, And then the rest is all cruciferous family. So a nice, isn't she beautiful? So this is cabbage, and probably I'm going to make this cabbage as vata reducing as possible, because all cruciferous vegetables are going to give you some gas. So that's going to include broccoli, it's going to include cabbage. I didn't get any cauliflower, but also Brussels sprouts, things like this. I want to make sure that I've got a lot of moisture, a lot of oil, and a lot of digestive spices. So for example, with this gorgeous cabbage over here, I could do shred her, chop her up, and saute in some ghee or some coconut oil with some cumin and some ginger and a little bit of asafoetida or hing and some salt, like so simple, and coat all of the cabbage with that sort of oily, spicy mixture, and then add in water and steam it, and it gets all like soft, like it just melts in your mouth, and it's warm, and it's got a rasa, like a sauce, a juice, and it's very easy to digest that way. So that was just like one example of how I might cook something that's harder to digest. With the broccoli, I'll probably just steam it lightly, and or my kids love when I mash it and make sort of like a broccoli pasta for them, usually con farfalle, the butterfly pasta, is how I learned to do it in Italy. And the Brussels sprouts, we call these monkey brains in our house. That's how I got the kids first interested in eating them. And again, I will probably just chop them up, throw them in some hot coconut oil and spices, and or chop them up and throw them inside a khichdi or a stew of some kind, because I want to make sure that I've got them really well cooked and really well spiced. And celery. So celery is also very challenging to digest when raw, even though it's so good to have that like peanut butter in the celery. It reminds me of my childhood. It's actually really hard to digest, because you're taking something super vata and then you're putting something really heavy and hard to digest, like a nut butter. So what I do with celery is I either am using this as the base for a marinara, a pasta sauce, or a soup, and this one's gonna go in a soup. Ooh, this is my favorite. So if you have a lentil person at your farmer's market, see if they have sprouted moong. I'm definitely gonna put up some recipes and ways to prepare this, but sprouted moong has so much protein, and I have an article on the website on khichdi cleansing, so you can learn about the detoxifying and rejuvenative properties of moong. Again, like the almonds, anytime you sprout anything, you're bringing back its life force. It's coming back to full life potential, creation potential, right? So I'm going to soak these, and I'm going to soak them really well, and they're going to puff up, and the green husk on here is going to just float to the surface of the water, and I'm going to scoop it off, because that's really hard to digest, and it almost looks like a little chickpea without it. And so then I'm throwing that in salads if I want to. I can just throw it in any sort of quick stir fry, even with like tabbouleh or pesto, and it just gives a little crunch, and it gives extra protein and all kinds of great nutrients. Super yum. And then I got my farm fresh eggs, all natural large brown eggs. The farm fresh eggs, again, are so great because they haven't gone through any processing to try to make them okay for mass distribution. So they do not need to be refrigerated, whereas the processing that commercial eggs go through, because they're stripped of the natural coating that's on the eggshell, those do need to be refrigerated. So I just keep those on the counter, but we do eggs, and as vegetarians, in general, that's kind of like another source of protein for our family. And then I grabbed some fruit. And this week I happened to grab the 3 basket of berries. And with berries, there's so many great things. Sometimes, like these really sour ones, my kids aren't going to be as excited about eating. And so I'll freeze them and just use them for spa water throughout the week. And it's really nice. And then I'm getting the nutrients in them. And I always eat them at the bottom of the water when they're all mushy. Um, and if I have any fruit that's going bad or not going to be fully eaten, then I will probably freeze it for smoothies, or I will stew it with a little bit of spice to add on top of an oatmeal, or to add on top of a French toast, or to add on top of even an applesauce or a chia seed pudding. So I really don't let any fruit go to waste in the house, but I'm also not buying a ton of fruit, um, just enough to pack in the lunches and have a little bit every day. What's really important is when you're going to the farmer's market, rotate what you're buying, because you want your body to be exposed to the full bounty of nature's vitamins and minerals and wisdom, and you want to eat seasonally. So buy what's in season, buy what they have, and change it up every week. So next week, I may still stick with my sprouted moong because I'm so in love with it, but I'll get a different root vegetable, and I'll get 4 or 5 other greens, whatever is calling to me, and maybe 1 or 2 other fruits. So you can see there's some clear trends here. One is I'm trying to connect as much as possible to the source of the food. 2 is I'm going more for the greens that have that are everything above the ground has more phytonutrients. So say like 80 to 90% of the veggies you're buying you want to be the above the ground kind, and then maybe 10 to 20% you want to be below the ground, the root veggies, and then as much as you can bring in some sprouted something, you're getting some really high life force goodness. And notice it's not a ton of fruit, just a little bit. It's there and it's great, but we don't need to be over sugaring ourselves either. And also note that I'm not eating or munching through almonds throughout the day because that's really challenging for digestion. And yeah, always have a little something that makes you feel indulgent and just excited. So I hope that helps to give you an idea of what to look for in the farmer's market and what to put in your basket. If you like tips like this, I love to share all the time what I'm learning and trying to apply in my life and as a mom. So, love for you to subscribe or join my email list or like whatever platform you're on. And just going to the farmer's market, you're already heading in the right direction. So, just start there. Take care.